We have spent the last few years typing questions into chat boxes and reading the text that comes back. But watch the execution taking place here, and you'll see the line we are crossing. AI is starting to take over the mouse and keyboard. We are dealing with autonomous agents now. This is software that runs on your local machine, opens your browser, types into command line terminals, and organizes your files to complete a specific goal. Right now, two heavyweights are dividing the user base in this space. On one side is OpenClaw, a massive community-driven pioneer. On the other is Hermes, a highly technical challenger built by elite AI researchers. Both are completely open source. Both run entirely on your own hardware. And both manage complex tasks by sending a simple text message through Telegram or WhatsApp. Looking at a feature comparison sheet won't help you decide between them. They operate on entirely opposing philosophies regarding how an agent should process information and execute commands. If you align your workflow with the wrong architecture, the technical friction will likely break your automation before it ever becomes useful. OpenClaw launched and hit 310,000 GitHub stars almost instantly. The adoption rate has been massive, supported by a massive library of community-authored workflows. The industry backing is severe. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has publicly compared OpenClaw's foundational importance to the creation of Linux and HTML. Hermes is moving quieter, but it is capturing the high-end technical market. It is developed by Noose Research, a team of lab engineers who literally train the language models these agents run on. The trade-off is clear. You are weighing OpenClaw's immediate, day-one capability against Hermes' ability to build deep, compounding knowledge of your specific projects over time. Defaulting to the most popular option makes sense for a lot of software, but if your goal is to build a reliable digital employee that actually understands your business, following the massive crowd into OpenClaw might lead you to a dead end. This animated flowchart illustrates OpenClaw's gateway architecture. It operates entirely on human-authored scripts. You download a specific skill from the community registry, plug it into the central hub, and the agent follows those instructions step by step. The immediate benefit is scale. You have instant access to hundreds of workflows that the community has already debugged and perfected. But the cost of that design is that OpenClaw is functionally stateless. Every time you start a new session, it begins from zero. It executes the script, but it learns absolutely nothing from the execution itself. This circular flowchart maps Hermes' completely different approach, the continuous learning loop. When Hermes successfully finishes a complex task, it evaluates its own work. It then physically writes a human-readable manual detailing the exact steps it took to succeed and saves it for future reference. Over weeks of use, Hermes naturally adapts to your specific coding style, folder structures, and project conventions because it keeps writing manuals based on what works for you. This means day one with Hermes is often clumsy. It lacks the massive instant gratification library of pre-built skills that OpenClaw offers, requiring you to be patient while it learns. OpenClaw gives you access to the collective knowledge of thousands of developers today. Hermes requires time, but it builds a customized employee that gets smarter tomorrow. Because of its size, OpenClaw's platform coverage is excellent. It integrates natively with over 20 environments, controlling everything from Discord servers to smart home IoT devices to your local iMessage application. That massive, unregulated ecosystem carries serious risks. Security teams at Cisco recently tested a popular third-party OpenClaw skill and found it silently extracting user data without permission. Reassuring but cautious, OpenClaw attempts to mitigate this by making sure every installed skill is a plain text configuration file. You can read exactly what the code is doing before granting access to your machine. Hermes bypasses third-party risk by relying on its own local, layered databases to maintain context. It continuously runs a user modeling system in the background. It remembers how you prefer your data formatted, which API endpoints you frequently call, and what went wrong during your last session. You will rarely have to repeat yourself. Managing that persistent memory requires active maintenance. If the agent learns a bad habit or saves an incorrect path, you have to manually edit its database to correct its behavior, a layer of state complexity that OpenClaw's clean slate approach completely avoids. You are trading the rigid, explicit control of OpenClaw for the frictionless, compounding memory of Hermes. We need to strip away the marketing hype. Both of these projects ship updates constantly, and those updates frequently break configurations. If you cannot confidently navigate a command line interface to read error logs or fix dependencies, running either of these agents locally is going to be incredibly difficult. For developers comfortable in the terminal, the most efficient solution isn't picking sides. As this diagram shows, you can run both simultaneously using the Agent Communication Protocol. You assign OpenClaw as the stable front-end orchestrator. When a task requires deep, repetitive back-end work, OpenClaw automatically pings Hermes through the protocol and delegates the execution. Warning tone: managing two independent AI agents running full bore across your hardware drastically increases your setup complexity and will heavily accelerate your API billing costs. They are framed as rivals, but the highest economic output currently belongs to users who force these two distinct architectures to collaborate. Looking at this decision tree, we can map exactly which tool fits your technical reality. We will call the first persona the immediate integrator. If your goal is to automate actions across multiple external apps and you need strict, auditable control over exactly what the AI is allowed to touch on your machine, your path leads to OpenClaw. For a massive subset of users, OpenClaw is undeniably the more capable, stable agent to deploy right now. The second persona on this tree is the technical optimizer. If you are comfortable troubleshooting in Linux, prefer running open-source local models to avoid API fees, and have highly repetitive coding workflows, Hermes is the required choice. The friction of early setup pays off entirely. By relying on its internal evaluations and memory layers, Hermes stops acting like a software script and starts acting like an employee that remembers how you operate. It takes investment, but Hermes is the better agent for where your workflows will be 6 months from now. We are moving to an environment where AI is no longer a separate browser tab, but a core component of your operating system's execution layer. Whichever architecture you deploy, the cost of sitting on the sidelines and ignoring autonomous agents is far higher than the temporary friction of learning to set them up.